Hi everyone, I'm Joanne with Newegg TV, and today I'll be doing a build! Okay, now that the excitement has faded, we want to note that we are featuring the BitFenix Phenom MicroATX case today. And what's cool about it is it's a reverse motherboard tray. So everything is flippy-floppy. And I've also done a video on this case some time ago. So if you're curious about some of its other features that I might not totally cover in this video, you can go check out that one. And also, there might even be a giveaway. More jazzy fingers. So stay tuned. So I'm sure you're curious about all the parts that are going into this case right here. Once again, this is the BitFenix Phenom MicroATX case. And over here we have the BitFenix Spectre Pro all-white LED fans, the 120s and one 230mm. And here is the Fantex PHTC14PE. This is the CPU cooler, and it is massive, so I'm gonna go over some fan orientations and all that with you once I get onto the actual build. And below that is the BitFenix Fury 750 watt power supply, which features the Alchemy sleeve. Once again, I will go over that later. And here is the MSI Twin Frozer GeForce GTX 770 graphics card. And down here at the bottom, we have, what do we have here? Oh my gosh, could this be the 4770K CPU? I have been wanting this for a while. It is so close, yet so far. And next to that, we have the Mushkin or Mushkin. I kind of like calling it Mushkin, it's just funnier that way. But these are the Mushkin 2 8GB sticks of RAM. And next to that, we have two, what is this, Kronos, it's also Mushkin, Kronos 120GB SSDs. Before you touch any of the components, especially like things like the motherboard and all that, you do not want to like create static. So I would suggest just touching the side panel of your case. That's what I do, and that should be good enough. But if you're extra paranoid, go ahead and wear an anti-static wristband. So I took the motherboard out of its box and placed it on top of its box, and I will be building some of the components onto this before I place it into the case. It is just better, especially when you have a small case, because just trying to get especially the massive heatsink on there while it's in the case, it's going to be very difficult. So let's see what the CPU box comes with. Alrighty, so most, or maybe all, CPUs come with their own stock heatsink. Which right here has its own, thermal paste already on there, as you can see, and fan on top. This is from Intel, of course. Easy to install, very small, should do the job. However, if you're overclocking or doing any intensive PC activities, it would be probably best to have your aftermarket heatsink on there cooling the CPU. Water cooling would be amazing as well. So here is the actual CPU. Something to note when taking it out is please do not touch the top or the bottom of it. Just take it out by the sides like so, because you don't want to get your finger oils on there and possibly risk damaging it. And you'll notice there is an arrow here at the corner, and there is an arrow here on the motherboard CPU socket too. You'll want to match that up, so this is how you will be dropping your CPU in. And there are also two notches on the sides where you will be mounting it. So let's go ahead and set that down and open this up. So you'll see some gold pins in there, and you will not want to touch those, because if any of them bend, disastrous for you. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go ahead and very carefully drop it in. It should just drop in like so. No need to put any pressure on it. Very good. And we're gonna go ahead and secure this. Oh, and did you see that? The plastic on top, the protecting plastic piece fell off. You'll want to hold on to this because let's say you're swapping it out or not using this anymore, you'll want to place this back on there as a cover. Before you install your DIMMs, make sure to look at your motherboard manual and see how they wish for you to populate the slots. So in this case, we have DIMMs 1, 2, 3, and 4. They want you to do 1 and 3, 2 or 4. And for the sake of space, because the heatsink is quite massive. We're going to be placing it in 2 and 4. Let's go ahead and open up this pack with the mushkin. Steve told me the other day that I think 1 in 5 people call it mushkin. The rest call it mushkin. Still, I like mushkin. So, here are the memory. The DIMMs, I'm sorry. So you'll notice there are notches here. I mean, just one notch. So there's only one way to install the DIMMs. Go ahead and pull these tabs back right here and install it like so. Honestly, I think we'd have more room if the heat sinks on top of it weren't so very tall. But anyway, actually, they are called, they just snap right back in. They're called the Ridgeback. These are the Mushkin Ridgeback DIMMs. And that reminds me of the Rhodesian Ridgebacks, actually. There's this actually quite rare breed of dog, but I digress. Anyway, and it just snaps into place, and voila. Here's everything that you'll need for the CPU cooler installation. I'm not going to go over all the individual parts, but I'll be using these 2 fans, and I've already popped in the little black clips and the secondary fan clips that attach onto the heatsink. So we'll be doing that, and these rubber strips will act as noise reduction, vibration reduction when you put it onto the sides of the heatsink like this. And they've also included some extra fan clips for you in case you want to put a 3rd fan on here. I don't think it will fit into this particular case since we will be installing other types of fans, but it's just nice to know. So you could do, push, pull, yeah. Anyway. And here's LGA 2011, which obviously we won't be needing because this is for the LGA 1150 socket. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the backplate first, and I'm just going to move all of this stuff out of the way so that I can get the motherboard back into the shot. So here we are again. You'll notice that on the motherboard you have these 4 holes here. That's where the backplate screws will go through. So here we have the backplate. And LGA 1150 is the center position. So we're going to go ahead and take these 4 long screws here. Oh, sorry. We actually push it through this way. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Now let's put the backplate on to the back of the motherboard. Alrighty. Make sure all the screws slot in. Now that the backplate is on the back of the motherboard, we're going to go ahead and install the other components, such as these black studs here. So we're going to put the black studs on there. And then we're going to take these 2 brackets here. Make sure it's in the LGA 1150 configuration. Like so, and then we're going to put these screw nuts, yes, that is a very funny name, onto, oops, not here, I'm sorry, onto the brackets like so. Make sure it's snug. I'm just going to continue doing that. Now you'll want to install this piece into the center position here. Make sure I can see what I'm doing. There's a hole there, so it should just slot right in. And then take this thumb screw and just screw it into this center position here. I'm going to need a screwdriver for this because even with my itty bitty tiny hands, I have a little bit of trouble getting to that center piece. So now that the screw is in there, let's go ahead and take this screwdriver and just screw it into place. Oh man, you gotta be really crafty with your fingers and just get that screw in there. Okay, now that that is on there, I'm going to go ahead and just place these rubber strips onto the sides here as I will be mounting it this direction. So give me a moment and the fans will go here and 1 in the center. Yay! The rubber strips are now on there. Maybe not perfectly, but good enough. You want to think about the airflow of the case, inside the case. So before you mount these fans, just kind of have an idea of how you want the air to blow within the case. So since the graphic card is oriented at the very top because it is reverse motherboard design, then you'll want to have the air intaking and exhausting to the bottom. You could do it other ways, but I find that like it would come in conflict with the graphics card sucking air in if I did the normal exhaust way. So you take the fan clips on the sides, it's very simple, and just clip it into place like so. And the other side as well. There we go. Should be nice and snug there. And you don't want to put the center fan in until this is in the case because well, it's space reasons, and you want to mount this onto the motherboard first so that you'll have like a better idea of spacing and all that. So let's go ahead and mount this cooler onto the motherboard. Next step, let's put some Phanteks thermal compound onto the top of the CPU. I'm gonna go ahead and twist this cap off. We're gonna do the grain of rice method simply because it is just safe. And if you are not sure about spreading, because I know some people do the spreading method, but we're gonna do grain of rice. Okay, very carefully. Ah, good, perfect. Well, good enough. Now, before we put on the heatsink, make sure you take off the plastic piece, which is generally on the base. Try not to touch that as well. And then we're just gonna go ahead and set the heatsink on there. Once again, remember, orientation of fans. How do you want this heatsink to blow air and stuff is how you shall install it. So I'm gonna go ahead and place this piece on there, just like so. Oh my god, it's just huge. Okay, it's like, you know, super close to most of these components, but now we're going to turn it to the sides and just screw it into place. You'll notice these two screws here. Gotta screw it down, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. It's gonna take a little bit of work, but at the end, it is worth it. Okay. And now for the second fan installation. I'm gonna go ahead and place this in there. Okay, carefully. And just go ahead and snap this one into place. And voila, the heatsink setup is complete. Now, before we place this into the build, we're probably going to want to do a test boot so we don't have to take everything out to see what is wrong with the build. So we're about to test boot the system, and I have everything plugged in, but before I go over all of that, I do want to show you the Alchemy sleeving in case you haven't heard of it or used it, but I think most enthusiasts should be familiar with this. It is it's very like high dense, it's like braided cloth material, unlike the rubberized kind you generally get, and as you can see, each cable is individually sleeved. So it's just very sturdy quality build. And it's cool to look at, but we are building in kind of like a smaller case, so I think it would have been better if we had flat cables, but this is good too. So I have the video card power connectors, the PCIe connectors in the video card, and I have the CPU fan plugged in, the 24-pin main connector plugged in, and the CPU power 8-pin plugged in. So we're just gonna go ahead, and the power supply is plugged in as well. I'm so excited. Okay, hope it all works. Okay, and I'm just gonna press the power button, which is on the motherboard, and woo, fans are go. I'm just gonna check out this monitor here to make sure we get some writing to be like, yay, I am working. So, oh, okay, sweet niblets. All right, it works. Did want to mention something. Normally, if you don't have the power button on the motherboard, which does happen, you'll have to short these two pins, but I'm very happy that it does come with this, so yay! Before we install the components like the motherboard, CPU, and DIMMs, I want to go over a little bit about the layout of the case. So you see those black motherboard standoffs here and here. you will need for this micro-ATX board you'll need 8 standoffs. Only about, I think, 4 of them were on there, so you have to screw the rest on yourself. And I did remove some components from this case, so it'll be easier to install everything, especially the cabling. It can be quite a nightmare if you don't have the space. So you see this piece here? This actually goes with this bracket here to install a 3.5 or 2.5 inch drive. And this piece goes actually, so this is the front of the case, and this piece goes here. So hold on a second. It is something like this, yeah. So it went here. And obviously, since I'm not using that space for drive, I removed it since a lot of the cables will be in this general area. And we also won't be needing this piece. This piece goes on top like this, something like that. And this is for installing drives, your 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch drives. However, I will be installing the 2.5 inch drives on the side of the case in these 2 spots right here. And also notice that this side of the case has the front panel connectors, so be sure to route those cables and install graphics card last, because that will take up quite a bit of room. And I also removed it came with a 120mm rear fan, as well as a 120mm bottom fan. That was, wait, this is front, yeah, bottom fan. So it was exhausting. That just gave me the idea of intaking from the top and exhausting towards the bottom. So this area is the top of the case where I will place the 2 120s and a 230 here at the bottom. And since we will have a fan at the bottom, where is this? Here it is. We won't be needing the heat shield right here. So if you install hard drives, you place a heat shield on top. So now we're going to install the power supply. This is the front of the case, and you do have some ventilation holes here as well along the edge of the case. So we can go ahead and mount the power supply fan facing towards the front here for intaking air. So you see this little bracket here? We're going to have to remove that first by taking off this thumb screw. So we're going to go ahead and just do that. Then we're going to put this piece, we'll put the power supply on this piece, like so, and then we're going to secure this bracket to the power supply with these screws. So I'm gonna need a screwdriver for this. Now that we're done mounting the bracket to the power supply, we're gonna go ahead and situate this baby right in here. But first, actually, we'll want to connect this power cable to the port on the power supply. So let's go ahead and do that first. Make sure that is pushed all the way into the power supply. Everything is just more difficult from this angle, but I shall get it. Aha! There we are. And now we shall go ahead and finish installing the power supply. All that's left to do, take the same thumb screw from before and finish installing the bracket back onto the case. So, and voila, we have power supply done. Now it's time to pop in the I/O shield for the motherboard. So here it is. Make sure it is in the correct direction. And go ahead and pop that in. Don't forget, don't be afraid to use a little bit of force, as you'll want this to pop out enough where, yeah, where it protrudes, just like this. Haha, I believe that is perfect. Very nice. So I made a boo-boo earlier. I was talking about how, see where the graphics card is? It is intaking air, and I'm gonna have those 2 fans at the top intaking as well, so the graphics card gets cooled the most inside the case. Suppose that's what the reverse design is for. And then I have these 2 fans intaking where the graphic card, you know, leaves off, and then intaking and then exhausting at the bottom. So earlier I had the fans actually on the other side, whoops, but that was an easy enough fix. Just unclip the fans and then put them over this way. So this is how it's supposed to look. Now I'm going to put the motherboard inside the case. Now I removed the graphics card and I'll be using these set of screws to put over the motherboard where the standoffs are. But what am I doing? I'm going to place the motherboard in there first. Alrighty. The graphics card has been removed, as that is one big piece of hardware, and it's already difficult enough to get this board inside the case, so we're gonna do that last. Plus, for the sake of cable management, we want to install the graphics card last. So I'm sure those who build can understand that. So I had to just unclip this fan real quick so I could get to that, the standoffs over here and over there. And I'm gonna start in the corner. Gotta be very careful with this. I should really tie my hair back, but let's start off with this one. All right, I'm finally getting to the very last screw on the motherboard. Thank goodness for my tiny little T-Rex hands and arms, so I can really get in there and just tighten that up. Snug, but not too tight, as you don't want to take off the standoffs with you if you do decide to remove this. And you know what? I've decided to just leave this fan off for now, so that when I install the card and plug in all the cables, it'll just be a lot easier to just replace this later. So there's the CPU power port right there, right next to the heatsink over the power delivery, and we're gonna go ahead and plug in that first, because like there's, all I can say is plenty of pre-planning involved, so the cables don't, like, you know, hit the fans or get too jumbled up, because we're gonna place a fan right here, and if I didn't do it like routed around the cooler like this, it would have hit the fan. So I'm gonna go do that now. As you can see, CPU power cable has been plugged in. We are a go. So here's the 230mm fan, and we're gonna go ahead and use this as an exhaust down at the bottom. I will need Tina's help with this, as these screws do drive themselves into the plastic, and we're going to be mounting the screws at 4 points, here, here, and the bottom too. So Tina, if you don't mind using the drill to help me with this, thank you. And FYI, it's always better to do crisscross pattern when you are drilling in screws, especially ones like these, so you get both the top and the bottom, at least one corner secured. Perfect. I don't know if you heard that, but hopefully. Oh my God, yes, so much easier with two people. And now we're gonna go ahead and take these two fans and put them at the top here. So these are going to be intaking. Bottom exhaust, top intake, straight line down for a very clear direction of airflow. Same type of screws. And they are much harder to screw in, but they are also much more secure, I believe. So we put together the first fan here. Like I said, you really got to get those screws in there, and I just thought it would be faster if we just finished one and then filmed the other. And once again, remember, it is intaking, all the fans are going in the same direction and eventually exhausting the bottom. So thank you very much for your help. Time to install these two SSDs. First, I'm going to take the side panel, and there are 4 screws here. I'm just gonna go ahead and, looks like I loosened this earlier, but I'm gonna go ahead and take these screws out so I can get the mount out from under here. That would be much easier to install the SSD. Next, you just bend it slightly since it is plastic, not too much because you don't want to break it. And then it comes out because it does not slide out that way. So here it is. What you do is you just take the SSD, like so, and mount it this way. So let me just line this up. Oh, there it is. Okay. And then I'm going to take the same screws that I used for the motherboard one, they are using the same type, and mount this SSD. So both the SSDs are plugged in right now. I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the SATA cable into here. So all I have to do is take it over to the, plug it into the motherboard later on. Just get these steps out of the way. Aha, these are the data cables. We'll have to use the power cables later from the power supply, the SATA, to finish the setup. Now to push this piece back in. Now the last step is to screw these 4 points back in, and we're good to go with the SSD setup installation. It's time to plug in all the cables. We'll start off with the top fans. So this motherboard only has 2 system fan headers. Wish it had more, but it's okay. We could always Molex the fan at the bottom there. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this one into the first system header, which is here. Okay, there we go. And then I'm gonna take this one and then plug it into the second system fan header. Give me a moment. It's not so bad actually. I actually really like that I have tiny little hands right now. So here's the 24-pin main connector right next to the 20-pin USB 3 header. I'm gonna go ahead and take this cable, okay, let's plug it in this way. One moment. It's getting more and more crowded in here. But haha, did you hear that click? I got it. Now, let's just move this out of the way. We'll zip tie them all later, like into like a corner or something. But that's it for the 24-pin, and now we'll need to go to the panel to plug in the rest of the plugs. Now to plug in the USB 3 connector into the header right there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go for it. It's really just by feel at this point. Well, I can kind of see it, but perfect. I heard that it snapped in. And let's go on to some of the other connectors. Do be careful since these cables are connected to the, is this the right side? Yeah, the right side panel. It might be nice if someone could hold the panel like my awesome camera person is doing right now while we plug this in. Now to plug in the audio, you can go ahead and use HD audio into that one over there, that pin over there. So we're gonna go ahead and just do that. Sorry if this is kind of hard to see, as it is hard to plug in. Okay. Boom, there, that's done. Woo! All right, now this is the hardest part. These are your power reset and power LEDs. I wish they had a little block so I can just plug it into that. But on the back, you'll see an arrow. The arrow means it's positive, and the other one is obviously negative. So we're gonna go ahead and look into the user guide so you know exactly how to plug it in, and it's so hard to see from here. I wish I had a magnifying glass. All right, one moment. It should be on 126 if I remember correctly, or 127, no, 126. So here's the diagram on how to plug it in. So I went ahead and plugged in all of the cables, including all of the side panel cables, because there's just no way to just go through them one by one. So we plugged in the front panel connector somewhere in this area, and we also plugged in the back fan via this Molex plug. We had to use an adapter because there are only 2 sys fan headers on the motherboard. And we also plugged in the SATA, data, and power connectors of the side panel. And I believe that's it. It is a bit of work and it does look really messy right now, but once I zip tie it all, I'm sure it'll look much cleaner. And this case isn't meant to like have a window to see all of your lovely components, so. Last but not least, we have the graphics card. And of course I have to put the last other fan on the CPU cooler, but let's first go ahead and remove the PCI slots. So here, we want to remove these 2. So we're going to kind of loosen the thumb screw so we can pull this up. And the other ones are coming off too, but we only need these 2. And then we're gonna have to put the card through here. Finally, it is time to drop the graphics card in there. Well, not literally drop, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the second X16 slot right here. That is the only one available to me, as this huge heatsink is in the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and very, very carefully just kind of wiggle it, in there. And going to lift this piece once again. There we go, so I can get the bracket section underneath it. Now that the graphics card is situated properly, man, everything in this case is just such a snug fit, but I'm gonna go ahead and push it down. Did you hear that? Yep, that means it has snapped into place. Now that the graphics card is pushed in all the way, we're going to lower this bracket and then screw it into place to make sure everything is secure. Oh my gosh, almost done. Now to power the card. So we're gonna go ahead and plug 2 of these in. The 8-pin here. Give me a moment. Okay. Okay, that's secure. One more. All I can say is thank goodness for zip ties. The ones that came with the case, they weren't long enough, so I had to borrow some from Paul. Thank you very much. And it looks a lot better, right, doesn't it? And I couldn't put this cable over the fan. Obviously, hitting the fan blade cannot go over here, hitting the fan blade. So I say overall, I'm very happy with it. So now we're going to close it up. And it should close. Ah-ha-ha! I'm so happy. It's done. Almost forgot about the left side panel, which is supposed to be the right side, but in this case, since everything is upside down, it is the left side panel. Should go on very smoothly, just like so. And then I'll just go ahead and put on the thumb screws. And just one more thing is the top. I'm gonna go ahead and put the dust cover and top cover over, so just give me a moment. Here's another look at the lovely top fans before I cover it up with this dust filter. Alright, that wraps it up for this build video featuring the BitFenix Phenom MicroATX case, and it is beautiful to behold. Also, one more thing is that you see the Cosmos 2 back there? It might be replacing it for about a month or so before, you know, who knows, giveaway. But anyway, I'm Joanne, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to our Newegg YouTube channel as well as our other YouTube channels. Thanks for watching. I'm exhausted, very fun build, and I will see you next time.